So welcome to Instantiating your class, where we're going to take the small but important step of actually bringing an instance of the class that you just created to life. So if the class is like a factory, then the instance is like one of the cars rolling off the production line. So let's go ahead and explore that now. So now that we have this fancy class thing we've created, or a user-defined type called bull cow game, how do we use it? Well, firstly, let's see how we've been using existing types that have been defined. If we scroll down in main CPP to get guess, you can see this line here. This says there is a type called string. Okay, they've not used a capital and stuff, but it's still a type, and it's user defined in that somebody else has defined it for us. It happens to be wrapped up in a namespace. It's just like a folder. So it's in a folder called standard, if you like, but it's called string. And this is the type. Guess is the name of the variable we're going to be creating, and we're initializing it to a value of a blank string. You actually, strictly speaking, don't need to do that, but it's a good habit given that we're not entirely sure how this would create itself. So how are we going to get access to our own type? Well, we're going to do something like this. It's not going to work right now, but I'm just going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to go something like f bull cow game, because that's the name of our class, just like string here was the name of the class. This is the template, the mold, if you like, that this thing's going to come out of. And we're going to call the actual thing something like bull cow game. And that's just like our guess. That's our variable. And that would, once we've done the necessary steps, that would make a new variable called BC game, which is actually a game instance. It's a bigger thing conceptually than just a string guess. And that would be that. And then we can't just initialize it trivially like this because it's not a string, it's not a number. So we'll talk about initialization in a minute too, i.e. how do we give it an initial, a starting value, you know, what properties is it born with? But this is what we're aiming for. So why does this not work at the moment? Well, the reason that doesn't work at the moment is because we haven't imported the library. So I'm just going to delete that line. I've made no changes to the code at this stage. At the top of main CPP, what we need to be doing is, and I want you to do this, hash include. Okay, so we do hash include. Now, we use quotes because it's not a system thing. This is something we've made ourselves. And look, it very happily says, oh, in this project, there's something called, in this solution, there's something called fbullcowgame.h. Let's use that. Great. So now we have included our own header file. Okay, and the compiler is clever enough, by the way, to know that if we're including this header file, that because all this implementation here refers back to the header file through this, and through these little prefixes, which we'll explore when we come to actually write methods, it knows that by including the header file, it knows where to go to find this code we've written. Bear in mind, there's nothing scary about the header file. Remember, you could copy and paste what's in this header file, cut it completely if you wanted, stick it at the top of there here, and it's the same as a hash include. Hash include literally means copy and paste, okay? It's nothing more clever than that, really. There's a few other things the compiler might do, which we can see later, but that's it, basically. Cool. So once we've hash included bullcowgame.h, we can now actually start to get access to it. So let's try this. Where are we first going to need the bull cow game? Well, when we play the game, one of the first things we're going to need to do before we play the game is to actually have a game to play. So now I want you to create a BC game instance. Now don't panic, it's simpler than it sounds. It's just like you've been making strings or integers or any other variable declaration. This is just a user-defined type, remember. It's just a big box full of clever stuff. So, make it the first line of play game for now. Declare a new object called BC game. Make it of type f bull cow game. Don't worry about initializing it yet. And make sure your code still runs when you finish. That will be the proof that it's all worked. So pause the video, have a go at that, and we'll show you how in a sec. So we're going to create the f bull cow game, BC game, and then when I hit semicolon, watch what happens. You see, it recognizes this as a class, and then that becomes our variable. This is actually an instance of this game. So this is the template, and then out of that mold, we create a game. Okay? So that is our first instantiation. So instantiate. So what does instantiate mean? It means create an instance of, instantiate a new game, or make an instance of a new game. And there it is. It's a game. It's a big lump. It's much more complex than just a string or an integer. But it's exactly the same as this guy here that just says, you know, make me a guess. Make me a string, rather, called guess. And then it goes off and initializes it. Wow. We do need to talk about initializing. So we have made a game, right? That's fine. Now, what properties does that game have? It has some state. It's born with some stuff, right? For example, later on, we're going to be saying that each game has a current try and a maximum tries. What has this game been born with? We don't know. We haven't explicitly said. We just don't know what these properties of the game, the current try and maximum tries, if you even have them, we don't know what those values are. And that's a problem. This thing at the moment is uninitialized. We don't know what state it's in, yeah? We know it's a game, but we don't know. It's like making a car and saying, well, I don't know if it's coming out the factory with the headlights on or with the headlights off or with the blinkers going or with the wipers going or with the engine on. You know, if you make cars and the factory is this thing here, and each of the cars is this. You know, see, I might make another game right now. I might say BC game there, and then I might make another one, and I might make it BC game 2 or player 2 game. You know, and this may be player 1 game. So we actually got 2 games running at the same time, and it can keep track of them because they're completely separate. They've got their own, well, they will when we start fleshing this out, have their own properties, you know, the current turn that they're on and you know, the status of the game, whether the game's won or not, will be independent for each of these 2 things. These are like 2 different cars coming off a production line from the same mold, but we need to be sure they all come off the production line in the same state. You know, headlights off, wipers not working, etc. So that is the job of something called a constructor. When we create a new game like this, what the code is going to do is it's going to go over here and it's going to say, where's the constructor? We don't have a constructor. So the topic of the next video is going to be constructors. It's going to be to say, how do we make sure that when our mold creates a new one of these things, whatever our thing is, in our case a game, that we set the state of that thing to what we want it to be, that our cars come off the production line with all their wipers off and all their lights off. Okay, so look forward to seeing you there where we'll work out constructors.